Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Happy and thrilled to have director Barry J on, director of the new movie The Way Out, available on all digital platforms. Barry, how's it going?
It's going so good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me back home.
Yes, well, uh, we'll get right into it. I don't know how much we can make this clear for the audience, but one of the first things I noticed about the film The Way Out was a couple of name drops, and I said Sloatsburg. I said Sloatsburg. Well, that's right in my backyard, and geez, that's a high ranch house, and I don't know if anybody knows what a high ranch house is because I don't know how prevalent it is outside the county I live in. But then I heard the name drop Nyack. I heard Bear Mountain. I was like, wait a minute, this takes place in Rockland County. Sire Studios, where we record this podcast, is in Rockland County in Nyack, New York. So, Barry, did you grow up in Rockland? Why is this set in Rockland County?
Well, when I was 4 and a half, we moved out of the Bronx, like a lot of families did, to Rockland County, which had the nickname Commutersville. And we were at the beginning. We were in 1968. There were no lawns. Houses were new. We were the first ones to
Yeah,
live in our house. So Rockland was pretty much getting established, you know.
yeah.
At least our neighborhood. I lived on Buckman Place,
Okay.
out near Blueberry Hill, and eventually Victoria Gardens. Um,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I grew up there. Now, uh, our family was there was either really good Jewish people or Hasidic Jewish people or us. And I wish, no, I wish I were kidding, but we're not. We were the ones that didn't go to temple, and I had a bar mitzvah at the nick of time, and I had to learn it phonetically. I had no idea what I was talking about. So, in all my childhood trauma, sadly, with no fault to Rockland itself, but at the time, bullying and abuse at home and all that kind of stuff was really my greatest fears,
Okay.
and I sort of was lived in survival mode.
Hmm.
My family was very loud and violent and holes in the walls and yelling. I'd be walking home from Kakiat Junior High, and as you're walking down the block, you could hear from a block away my family screaming, and I'm like, close the windows,
Yeah.
But you can't close the windows because my father doesn't turn the AC on in the summer. So everybody hears the news.
Yeah.
Um, so that was the kind of house I grew up in. I was afraid when he came home. I was
Hmm.
afraid of everything. I was afraid to go out in the neighborhood and, with the kids around. I had a couple of good friends, just a couple, and they kept me sane, you
Hmm.
know. And one was a girl who lived across the street named Terry, and the other was a guy named Rob in West Nyack. But that's why I said it there because that's where it happened. And to be honest with you, Stephen King was an inspiration. How he always tells stories in Maine. I
Right.
was just like, why am I trying to make up locations where I've never been and all that? And it all happened in Rockland, and I can place in Rockland, and it'll feel really authentic and cathartic for me, you know?
So what's really funny that you do that though, and I literally just passed this by on the way to the studio today. There is so much filming in Rockland now.
There is.
There is so much filming. They literally just took the gas station on the corner on 9W. Again, we're gonna
Yeah,
talk actual landmarks that you and I might know,
I
but
know
the
where you
general
are.
audience will not. And they turned it into, I guess it's a zombie apocalypse movie because they turned it into an abandoned Red Rocket gas station. They've been doing it over the course of a week. And just as I was passing by, they were filming. So when you said it in Rockland, part of me was like, I wonder if he actually was from here or he just happened to be filming here because everyone's filming here now.
So here's the funny part. So I wanted to film Rockland, and we
Yeah.
almost filmed one day in Rockland. We filmed in the Hudson Valley, but we were in Fishkill, where, to be honest, I got there and I
Okay.
said, "Looks like Rockland."
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks just
Rockland
like Rockland.
adjacent. It counts.
Yes. And the house that we shot in, that was no accident. I was on the hunt. I sent a picture of my house growing up to the location scouts, and they
Yeah.
found a replica of the home I grew up in, except the outside was much nicer in the movie than my house was. My house was painted once and they did nothing. The cement steps were broke, the shutters fell off, the paint faded.
Sure.
I mean, nobody took care of anything. So
No,
it,
yeah.
I did not find a house quite like that because who keeps their house like that? And
Yeah.
So, but I was fine. I liked the White House. It actually looked like a nicer place for him to inherit and more of a reason to keep it, you know,
Yes. Yeah, no,
than it
that makes
was.
sense as well too. So talk to us about the film. Tell the general audience what the film is about.
Well, it got inspired by inspired feels like a weird word for this, but I had a really rough childhood.
Hmm.
I wish I didn't, but I did, and I can't do anything about it, and I'm good. I'm recovered.
Yeah.
And this story has been actually kind of percolating in me for a while. And in all
Hmm.
honesty, I was not ready to tell it.
Okay.
I still had more recovery to do. Whatever it was, I just felt like not yet, not yet, not yet. And when I sat
Yeah.
down to write The Way Out, I was sort of looking around my room at some of the keepsakes I have from my family. My mother's New York autographed New York Giants baseball from 1936.
Wow.
And then this thing that was in the movie that my father gave me before he passed. And that's the
Wow.
chip off the old block. And this is what I looked at that inspired me.
Sure.
I'm like, because it represents a really good moment. Like I
Yeah.
made my dad really something really nice. And I was really
Yeah.
happy to give it to him. And he kept it his whole life till he was 82, you know?
Wow.
And, so I thought to myself, what happened? Where did it go wrong? When did
Yeah.
that stuff start? Because the beginning of my life, up until that picture, I was not hit, I was not
Hmm.
held inappropriately or anything like that. That all happened later, and but then it destroyed me, and I was shut down. Alex is a reflection of me. It's a lot of the span of my life, kind of
Hmm.
like squeezed into the age of 25. That is when I started working out. So there's that. I did struggle with sobriety at the time. So there's
Hmm.
that. I was very underweight. I was very shut down, very intimidated by the thought of intimacy. I just
Yeah.
couldn't let another person touch me after that. And I look, it's really weird to be like either physically abused or physically inappropriately touched by the
Sure.
same person. It's just I didn't know who to trust, and I don't know. I had to cut them out for 2 years, according to a therapist. And I changed my phone number and just become gone
Right.
so I could start healing. And I eventually did go back, but it was still a very estranged relationship until I got sober. And then I started seeing things differently and I started seeing
Hmm.
him differently. And I started feeling differently about what he might have gone through before he did it to me,
Sure.
And I don't know, the whole thing felt like forgiveness was the answer. Just like, I'll be free. He'll be free. He seems to be
Hmm.
like a nice, jolly old guy right now. He was a
Yeah.
great grandfather. I was like, where was that? I didn't get that.
It's funny. My wife says that too, and I've only known, um, I've only known my father-in-law for, I guess, the 10 years I've been with my wife, and I'm like, and he wasn't in any way, shape, or form abusive or bad or anything like that. He just wasn't there, right? He didn't know how to have a relationship with. This is according to her, obviously, right?
Sure.
In her experiences, she never felt close to him, right? And she sees them with our kids now, and she's like, oh my God, she's like, part of me is like sad because I didn't get this, and part of me is like thrilled because he
Right.
gets to finally kind of show this side that she didn't get to
Right.
see. And so I can empathize with what you're saying there.
Yeah. It was kind of it was a double-edged sword, but mostly I was happy to see that there will be around the kids that know love and joy and nonviolence.
Yeah.
He got a chance to be the dad he wasn't. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it's a remarkable thing. You talk about this, I guess, like I said, it's very deep and personal to you. Obviously, I got the sense of watching the film that it was very deep and personal. This wasn't a fly on the wall kind of movie. This was more, set in the movie itself,
Yeah.
right? Like the inspiration for it. Watching it on screen, putting this together, was there any kind of fear in you to do this? I mean, sometimes, Hassan and I are both writers. We make comic books. Obviously, you can see all the stuff we do here, and
I love it.
we sometimes will say it's sometimes it's like, well, how much do you want to show? Like how deep do you want to go? Because it's tough to put that out there in the world that your friends and your family could actually read this or see
Hmm.
this. So did you have that same kind of fear with this film?
Oh yeah. I mean, this was my one deep, dark, traumatic secret.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we actually cut some stuff with the flashback that even revealed more of the secret. Like, I got laughed out of class once because I had a ginormous hickey on my neck. And just to say in a nutshell, I was not the kid in school who would be given a hickey for any reason by anyone whatsoever. And everyone knew that. And that's how I got
Yeah.
laughed out of class because I couldn't say
Wow.
where it came from.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, so this was the mothership.
Yeah.
And going into it, I thought, yeah, I'm ready. But there's still that little tinge of like, what's this going to be like? And
Yeah.
when I walked into the house, I got the shivers because it looked just
Sure.
like my house, the landing, the stairs, the house I was designed.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
I was like in my room watching the monitor of the trauma happening in the master bedroom. And I was just like,
Yep.
it's weird. It's just
Yep.
weird. I think I'm okay, but it's weird.
Did you have the
And
smaller room or did you have the bigger of the two rooms? That wasn't
well,
the
to be
main.
honest, I started in the smaller room.
Yeah.
And then I went downstairs to where that was my father's office, where he's a
Got
court
it.
reporter and he would do extra work at night. And then I got that room and he got the smaller room. Then my
Okay.
sister moved down there because she wanted it and I did anything to make her like me because I
Okay.
can't stand her hating me. And then I went to her room, which was the bigger upstairs room.
Wow. Okay. Because I grew up in the smaller room. No problems with it. No problems with it
I love this
whatsoever.
small room.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think I actually went back to the small room because I see pictures where my grandnephew, well, my nephew, um, and my mom are sitting on my bed in the small room.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Hassan, have you ever been
I'm
in a high
back in
ranch
there.
before?
No,
I'm
I have
sorry.
not.
No, I was asking Hassan if he's ever been in a high ranch before. That
No.
Have you
house,
ever?
that is the Rockland County house. That is
Yeah.
like that it took over the development of the entire like.
All houses look the same, except we didn't have a porch on the back because my mother
Okay.
thought when we moved in that I would fall down the steps and get hurt. So every house had a porch but us.
Okay.
Now she's got a
Probably.
worry war. But I used to stand, the hallway that led down past the bathroom and into
Sure.
the bedrooms. It came to a point where I would stand at the foot of that hallway. I had to get to my bedroom and pass my father in bed,
Uh,
um, in his bedroom, in the
yep.
main bedroom. And there was an undescribable fear that
Hmm.
was like flaming inside of me to take the first step and to please, please, please let me make it to my room.
Wow.
And because I knew if all I have to hear is, "Hey, kiddo," and then I was like, "Oh, and
Yeah.
so it was always a toss up.
Yeah. No, like I said, it definitely felt, you're in when you watching the film. Again, it didn't feel as if you're journalistic or observing. It felt like you're in the mix of it. One thing that we noticed as well too, really stellar cast. How did the
Yes.
film come together? How did all the casting come together? How did take us back before the film was made to the prep work and the pre stuff to get this thing on off the ground.
Sure. A friend of mine who's a producer brought it. When I finished the script, I gave it to him, and he brought it to Nick Thur and Mike Manning, and they were coming on as producers. They loved the
Hmm.
script. Mike actually eventually got busy with some, acting work and whatnot, and other producing things, and said, "I'll circle back. Would you guys keep going?" And one day on Zoom with Nick, because this was during COVID.
Yeah.
Also, I'm in Vegas. Um, one day on Zoom with Nick, I said, "Has Mike ever thought, like, has ever mentioned wanting to play Shane?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "He hasn't mentioned it, but if you want me to, I'll ask him." And I was like, "Yeah, would you?" You gotta know, when I was writing Shane, like
Yeah.
sitting in the dark of my room with my laptop and hearing that
Sure.
voice in my head, it was hands down, without a doubt, Ryan Reynolds from Amityville Horror, the beard, tall,
Sure. Sure.
intimidating. Yeah. And, Mike had this boy next door face, and I thought, and he's a wonderful actor. I also looked at some
Yeah.
stuff online, and I was just like, wow, this is a whole different approach to Shane, and I think I like it better.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah. And then I recognize. I mean, Sherry Shepherd's in it.
yes.
I
Sherry
mean, she's
Shepherd came from
fantastic.
one of our producers. We were looking for someone of that school, someone with that
Yeah.
maternal wisdom and,
Hmm.
strength. And I had not thought of Sherry Shepherd. I cannot take credit, but one of the producers, Carl, had a friend who worked at her agency, and said, I can get it to I got it to Sherry Shepherd, and she really thinks it's great. And I went, hold on, Sherry Shepherd, and I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit! I mean, no, it was an immediate yes. I mean, who's going to say no to Sherry Shepherd?
Yep.
I was, thank God, she wanted to do it. I was so happy. She's not only a favorite from 30 Rock, but I saw her in Precious. I watched Precious like 5 times, even though it's a really
Hmm.
hard movie to watch. The performances are just so good.
Yeah.
And she stood out to me. Cornrows was always something that stayed with me. And when I
Yeah.
thought of her as Veronica, I immediately saw cornrows, and I'm like, of course she can do it. Of course she can.
Yeah.
She can do
Yeah.
anything. And then
I don't,
Ashley Murray came from our casting director. And this is a
okay.
fun story. You'll like it a lot. Ashley Murray was in Katie Keene, a spinoff of Riverdale, with Johnny Beauchamp.
Yep.
She got the script to be Gracie, and of course, history, tells you she became Gracie immediately. She gave the script to Johnny, and
Okay.
Johnny read it, and he's like, "Why is there Sloatsburg and Nyack in here? Who wrote this script?" Johnny was raised in Rockland.
Get out of here. I didn't know that.
And Johnny, through the casting director, because of Ashley, said, I need to meet Barry, and I need to meet him today on Zoom. Please set it up. Please, whatever he's doing, find 5 minutes for me. And I was like, I mean, it's COVID. I got all the time in the world.
Yeah, right. What else I got going on?
But I loved the insistence. That sort of obsession is like, I
Sure.
always love that when somebody's really, really passionate about something. It's one of my favorite things. So I said, sure, I'll meet him right now. Get him on Zoom. I'm waiting here. And we were always using my Zoom for everything. So he was complete opposite. I mean, as Alex, writing it from my own point of view, I was 100-pound nebbishy Jewish kid,
Hmm.
who um, wasn't a looker. Let's just say that. And then Johnny gets on, and he's so charismatic, and he's not a Jewishy nebbishy kid.
Right.
But he's talked about being from Rockland. He talked about how he knows this character. He talks about what he wants to bring to the table for this character. And
Hmm.
we had been looking for the right Alex, and looking and looking and looking,
Yeah.
and lo and behold, he found us. And
That's
I just
amazing.
said, "This is it." I didn't watch anything on video. He did not audition. I just knew this was the guy.
We got to have a Rockland party at some
We
point.
need, we need to have a total Rockland party. He's like, I lived in Suffern. I'm like, I worked at Caldor.
Oh. Oh
Do you
man,
remember
that's
Caldor? I think it's
it's
gone.
Coles now. It's Coles now, but yes, I do remember
It's
Caldor. I
Coles
remember
now. Okay.
on YouTube. Again, this is this is you know what, this is why I enjoy it, that it's our show, Hassan, because we could just kind of do this. F the outside world. We could just talk about Rockland for the next 30
I know,
minutes.
right? Isn't it awesome?
You can go online. My friend sends me these videos too. There's YouTube videos. You can see Rockland in the 80s and 90s. People actually just took camcorders and just
No.
drove through Rockland. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you YouTube it, I gotta find it. But
Really surprised. I've never thought to do that. I
it's
have done
amazing.
that with images on,
Right.
on Google,
Yeah.
I looked for my house back in the 80s. I looked up the exact address.
Yep.
Um,
No, you
some
can
stuff
actually
like
do it. And they
that.
have people driving by. So before the Palisades Mall was there, when the Nanuet Mall was there, as opposed to the
Oh, so
Nanuet.
Nanuet Mall was my hangout.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, it was everyone's hangout. That was, well, malls in general were the most amazing thing. I think this generation has missed out on not having
yeah,
more malls.
the fun of going to Spencer's. And do you remember Aladdin's, the arcade?
Oh,
That
okay.
was in
Well, we had
Nanuet
Mr.
Mall.
Arcade. Mr. Arcade was where we went. That was our big thing.
Okay, so in the Nanuet Mall at the time when I was growing up, it was called Aladdin's, and it was next door to
Okay.
Spencer's, Spencer
Okay.
Gifts. And
Yep.
I don't know, I just love the mall. It was, I mean, what else are you going to do? It's Rockland County. There was,
No,
especially
that's
in the
what you did.
70s. Yeah,
Yeah.
there just wasn't a ton to do. But once I learned to drive, I would go to Port Authority. I would go to the bus station
Yeah.
At the
and
at the
go to Port
bridge.
Authority in New York and see shows.
Okay.
So that was
Okay.
kind of
Yeah. Well,
fun,
yeah.
having that
Once
bus.
you need a car. Like in Rocking, you need it. It's not a unless you live in Nyack, really. I think that Nyack is one of the few, or New City, if you live,
Oh,
where you can actually walk to stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
you need a
Last time
car.
I visited, I actually stayed in Nyack at that hotel up on the hill, that
Oh,
wonderful.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
It's
now
really
the
nice.
Hotel Nyack. They
Yeah,
just
yeah, it's beautiful. And
yeah,
I just wanted to stay in Rockland, and my husband wanted to stay there and see it and what it's like and all that.
yeah.
And I still, my
Well, I
friend
tell you,
Terry is still
it's
there in Piermont.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nyack is still thriving. Piermont's a funny story because Piermont was there was at one point it's a super rich area now with mansions and it's
Oh,
super built
wow.
up. But
Okay.
I guess at one point it was so run down that Woody Allen shot a film there and had to actually build up some of the houses just to make it look like a depressed
Wow.
30s like set. Like that's what they kept saying about Piermont. Like it was so run down. So if you bought property there in the 60s or 70s, you're like a gazillionaire right now because it was
Yeah.
it was so
Well,
poor.
my parents sold, they got it for 24,000, the house, and they
Okay.
sold it for 125,000 at the time. And that was
Hey,
early 90s. If they held on to it, it would be, yeah.
I think so. My parents paid 50 for theirs. They bought it in 1975.
Ah,
Let's safe to
okay.
say that I mean they're still living in the house. My childhood house is still intact.
Really?
But
Is
safe
it
to
in
say
Nyack? What city were you in?
I'm in Valley Cottage.
Oh, my friend Betsy, my prom date, um, the first friend I had that told me I was gay in high school, and we're still friends to this day. She lives in Valley Cottage.
She lives right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I've got
Oh
two
wait,
friends, Betsy and Terry, who still live in Rockland. The rest have moved on, but
I'll
they've
have to
holden down the fort.
after this we'll have to exchange. See, I tell you again. Sorry, everyone, fans of the
Sorry,
Rogue Wave
everyone.
podcast. This is a this is
It's just,
this
I
is
hope you
this
understand.
is
It's a
just turning
thing.
into a who's who of where we live.
I know,
All
right?
right, Barry, tell everyone where they can consume the way out, and tell us what you got next going on.
Let's see. The Way Out is going to be February 10, starting on Amazon, Apple TV, Tubi, Google Play,
Hmm.
and that's just the start, and it'll be more widespread shortly after that. Um, and right now, I've got a screenplay I just finished. I guess you can say I'm in pre-production. We've
Hmm.
got most of the cast, and the funding is on its way. And it's called Like Father, Like Son. It's a serial killer story.
Hmm.
And then I just with my husband, my sister who died loving Rockland County, and I got to take her back there before she passed, and it was the best thing in her life. Um, was a diehard Christmas fan. So in honor of her, we're writing a Christmas movie. I'll say it's a Hallmark one, but Hallmark isn't making it right now that we know
Yeah,
of.
yeah. Well,
Yeah, hopefully they will. But yeah, but it's a great idea. It's something I haven't ever seen done, and I watch a lot of Christmas movies, and
I
I'm a
love
shameless Hallmark fan. Um,
it. Nothing wrong with that.
no, I love it, love it. It's just so they're just so easy to digest, just all good, all happy endings. So we're working on that, and then we'll get those wheels in motion once we're done with it, which we should be in about 3 months.
Fantastic. Barry J, the movie's The Way Out. Catch it on all digital platforms starting February 10th. Barry, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
This
we'll
has
have to
been all
trade
kinds
landmarks
of
pretty
awesome.
soon. Next time you're in town, come in there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wave podcast.